With the Jets losing to the 49ers, this is the second straight year that we've gone 0-2. Here are my top 5 takeaways from last Sunday's game. Jets, Jets! Welcome to Jets Talk. My name is Ryan. I'll be your pilot today. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. If you've been here before, welcome back. I love having you here. If it feels like you've been suffering as a Jets fan, it's probably true. So that is what inspired this the shirt design that I'm just dropping. So if you want to get that, I'll put the link in the description down below. Just end the suffering. It's going to be a long season, Jet fans, and this is just week 2. So let's jump right into it. Let's talk about my top 5 takeaways from the 49ers game. At number 5, I want to talk about the linebackers, specifically Alec Ogletree. Now, the Jets had a tough time guarding against the run with Josh Allen in week 1, but the 49ers decided to take advantage of that in an entirely different way. The Jets just signed Alec Ogletree to play inside linebacker this past week, and it showed. It was really bad, especially on the 2 biggest plays of the game. So when I say what are the 2 biggest plays of the game, you guys are going to say the 80-yard touchdown run to start the game and the 55-yard run on 3rd and 1, both of which were Alec Ogletree's fault, first and foremost. So that is not what you want to see. He had a terrible Pro Football Focus grade, 26.6, just to kind of put a little icing on the cake. I don't want to see this guy out there. I'm not sure why Avery Williamson is not playing. I'm hoping it's just injuries right now, and I'm hoping once he gets a little bit healthier, we're going to see more of him and less of Alec Ogletree. The less I can see of him, the better in my mind. At number 4, I have the injuries, and this is just across the board for both teams. It was fascinating that Jimmy G, Nick Bosa, Solomon Thomas, Mostert, and Coleman all went out with injuries, and the Jets just couldn't seem to put anything together. Even with those backups and star players out, they're already without Sherman and Kittle, their starting center. The Jets should have been able to do some kind of damage against a team with that many injuries, and we just had no one. It was that no one really stood out overall. I mean, there's a few guys that I'll get to in a little bit, but by and large, the Jets should have been able to take advantage of this type of situation. Heck, they had Jordan Reed score 2 touchdowns on us. The guy hasn't played a snap in like a year and a half. So not the best showing for the New York Jets. And then on the Jets side of things, we went into the game with 4 healthy wide receivers since we were already without Crowder and Mims, and then Perriman and Hogan go down. So now we're down to like Malone and Berrios as your 2 wide receivers that Sam's trying to throw to, and then you're just throwing all your tight ends out there just to get some bodies on the field. It's not a good look. I feel so bad for Sam, and I don't know if I see this situation getting any better. I don't think Joe Douglas is going to go out and trade for a wide receiver, and that's concerning to me. I don't like what I'm seeing right now. At number 3, I want to talk about a positive, and that's Quinn Williams. This was definitely his best game as a pro. He had 2 sacks, forced fumble, 4 solo tackles, and 3 assists. He finished with a Pro Football Focus grade of 77.7, and I was really happy with what I saw out of him. He was going against a backup center, so a little, grain of salt there. But overall, if he could continue to play in a dominant capacity where he's blowing up runs and just getting into the backfield and creating pressure up the A-gap, I think it's a solid pick, and I think this is hopefully the start of him turning the corner as a pro. At number 2, I have Sam Darnold, and it's been night and day, at least in terms of his Pro Football Focus grade. Week 1, not too good, pretty bad overall. Week 2, I think this was the highest grade across the board for our Jets, 86.2. He finished with 65% completions, 179 yards and a touchdown. Now, that touchdown did come in garbage time. There was like a minute and a half left in the game, but the way that he scored that play was the magic that fans are enamored with Sam. He rolls out, he's under pressure, he gets out to the side, he throws and contorts his body and whips a pass to Berrios, and it was on a dime. It was a beautiful throw. Now, regardless of it being in garbage time, I think there's some hope that you can see that, like, hey, this guy throwing downfield is pretty good. I don't understand why he's playing so many balls close to the line of scrimmage. It feels like every throw is within 5 yards. At number 1, I have Adam Gase, and this has been a head-scratcher week in and week out with his decision-making. And 4th and 7, down by 3 scores, deep in the 49ers territory, he decides to kick a field goal. Now, when you're down by 3 scores and you kick a field goal, especially when it's at the points that it was at, and now you're down by 18 points after you make the field goal, you're still down by 3 scores. So you really didn't do anything overall across the board for this, win percentage. We actually lost, we had a higher chance of winning prior, and then he kicks field goal and we got a lower chance of winning. So just from like a statistical standpoint, that just doesn't make any sense. The run with Adams on 4th and 1 made absolutely no sense to me. You have Frank Gore, who you've been running ragged all day, and instead you go with Adams on a 4th and 1 play, which also leads me into the whole Sam Darnold not allowed to change the play call at the line of scrimmage. Now, Gase has come out and said that Sam is allowed to change the play call at the line of scrimmage, but only in specific situations, and that 4th and 1 was not one of them. You're telling me when the center and the quarterback are in line and you have no one over the center and no one over the guard, Sam can't call his own number and fall forward for that 1-yard gain? That doesn't make sense to me. I think Sam calling out Gase on that in his press conference is something that's a little throw or nod towards Douglas, like, hey, look, this is something I don't really agree with, and it doesn't really make much sense to me. And then you got to talk about McDougal and Williamson coming out and talking about the lack of energy in practice. This is something we sort of started to hear out of Jamal Adams over the summer prior to him getting shipped off to Seattle. And I think it's fair to say it's probably an issue. I think some of it was blown out of proportion. It says, the players were talking more about the players need to have more energy. The players need to be, on top of their game, having good practices. And Sam said, he's like, hey, the players know when there's laziness or when they know when there's not a good practice. And it seems like it's starting to be a trend, and it looks like it out on the field. It doesn't look like our guys are prepared at all. It looks like they are playing we basically versed the Kirkland brand version of the 49ers this past week, and we couldn't do anything at all. Without, garbage time and zone, prevent defense, Jets don't score a touchdown in this game. Now, I know we're only 2 games in, but I have seen enough of Adam Gase. I think there's going to be an opportunity. You see what you get out of him these next 2 weeks against Indianapolis and against Denver. Denver's a Thursday night game. That gives you 10 days before your next game. I think that would be the opportunity. If you were going to fire him prior to the bye week, that would be when you do it. But I think the hurdle is going to be Chris Johnson coming out and publicly backing Adam Gase and talking about what a great offensive mind he is. I think there's going to be a stubbornness there, and regardless of how bad his decision-making is, I think we're going to be stuck with Adam Gase for a longer period of time. The scary thing for me is that we're going into a situation where Sam really needs to develop and show us something, because there's a real threat of the Jets getting the number 1 overall pick, and the Trevor Lawrence rumors are going to start swirling. They already have. We answered a ton of questions about this on the Talking Jets panel. I want to see what I have in Sam Darnold prior to making that pick, and if Adam Gase is that head coach, I don't think you're going to get a fair grade on him. I'd rather move on from him, make Greg Williams your interim head coach, promote Jim Bob Cooter to be the offensive coordinator, and just see if there's any spike in production. Because it seems like all these offensive coordinators around the league are getting production out of guys. Heck, Gardner Minshew had 2 games back-to-back with 3 touchdowns. Why can't Sam, a guy who was drafted 3rd overall, have those kinds of games? We've seen some special talent out of him. It really feels like it's the play calling and the style in which he's coaching that really, hampers some of the development from these players on this team. And when you look at guys like Kenyon Drake and Jarvis Landry and Ryan Tannehill, Devontae Parker, all having success beyond the Adam Gase system, it gives you a little bit of hope that moving on from him could create a better situation for Sam Darnold. Now, guys, those are my 5 takeaways from the game. Let me know what you think of that down below in the comments. And as always, go Jets.